Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region, and welcome to this Free State Colorado video. Today, I'm joined by Natalie Menten. Natalie is a longtime leader in the Colorado Liberty community, a former RTD board director, and is currently a 2024 candidate for Jefferson County Commissioner. Well, Natalie, I hope you are well, and thank you for joining me today.
Happy to be here, Brandon.
Well, Natalie, it's campaign season, and we're hearing a lot from candidates, whether it's on TV, whether it's on the radio. We're hearing it everywhere. People are probably, if they're not sick of it already, they will be before November for sure. The mailers are out, and it seems to be really the topic that we're hearing the most about is affordability. This cost of living issue is something that's affecting everybody in the state of Colorado. Poll after poll shows that this is the number one issue driving voters. And Natalie, I think you've really zeroed in here on a really important aspect that's a fair, easy way, really a relatively easy way to reduce the cost of living here in Colorado. And it's this food tax. You know, food is expensive more so than ever. It's hard to believe how some of these families are getting by with these outrageous grocery bills. So, Natalie, tell us about the food tax. Why does the government tax our food, and what can we do about it?
Well, first of all, there are things that we definitely can do about it. So I want to start with that note. And the grocery tax, food starts by, first of all, defining what is taxed. So I'm going to skip to the slide here and we start. There's two different ways that groceries are taxed or food is taxed in the state of Colorado and local jurisdictions. So there's different levels of that taxation. But first, you got to break it down into two groups of food categories because that's how the government does it. So there's what's considered food for home consumption. And I've got some examples of pictures there. Can of tomato soup, a package of chicken, raw vegetables, milk. There's also food for immediate consumption. Food for immediate consumption is what people would think of it as fast food, packaged food. And again, I've given examples there that show it kind of goes beyond what most people would expect. When you go into a deli department, if you're getting sliced ham versus buying it in a plastic package, that would differentiate between whether it's home consumption or immediate consumption. Basically, it comes down to there's a lot of complicated rules, and eliminating the tax on groceries would reduce all of that confusion and different types of taxation, which takes up a lot of time. Now, we've talked about, as you started with, the cost of living, and we've talked about it during the property tax discussions. And as we have some resolutions that have come forward on that, the cost of living is still putting a large burden on the citizens. And it's one of the most common things we're going to hear from the voters moving forward is what can we do to reduce that? And as you stated, taxes play a vital part of, or large role, I should say, would be the best description. And as I described here, there's food for immediate consumption and home consumption. Reducing food taxes adds up. And when we do that, that is what could really be considered low-hanging fruit in reducing the cost of living. So how much do the food taxes add up over a year? And I have quite a bit of experience about this, and I'm going to show in a couple slides here later. But if we reduced an average household's grocery taxes, what that equates to is another week to 10 days worth of groceries that's put on your table instead of going into the government's pocket. And let's face it, grocery taxes are very regressive. So the lower or less somebody's income is, the more that is chewed up by those taxes, and especially on a necessity like food. You'll very commonly hear grocery taxes being called immoral. That may be a little bit of a strong stance, but the fact is governments in Colorado largely have the ability to eliminate these taxes. And again, it's worth quite a bit of value. People look at their receipt when they come out of the grocery store and they're seeing, you're barely filling a cart and it's 50 or 60 bucks. If you get off fairly easy. And when you look down at the end of the receipt, you're going to see these different variety of taxes, and it's actually hard to decipher. And I know King Super as being the largest retailer, as far as I know. Maybe Walmart's a competitor, I'm not sure. But it's hard to decipher what is being taxed. So the food for immediate consumption, as I described earlier, is a different category. Now, why it's important to talk about those two really quickly is that there are jurisdictions, including the state of Colorado, that have eliminated taxes largely on food for home consumption, but almost all governments charge the full tax rate on that sandwich that maybe a janitorial crew worker or a construction worker or an office worker grabs on their lunch break, or in between the two part-time jobs that they've got, or in between their dinner and their college classes at night. So why are we finding it acceptable, or it's a no, let's go this way. Why is it really kind of governments are shunned at this point if they're taxing regular food for home consumption, but it's acceptable to tax that submarine sandwich that the guy grabbed, as I expressed, in between lunch break. So
Oh, definitely,
the
Natalie. No, I don't think it's too strong to say that the food tax is immoral. Definitely, like you call it unethical, but definitely immoral as well. Like you said, that's what working class people. People just working hard. Maybe they don't have time because they're working multiple jobs or they have a long commute and they stop somewhere to get food. They're not sitting at home taking the time, hours and hours to prepare a meal. They might need it quick, and that's your average Colorado worker. In that they're being taxed unfairly on this. It isn't right. I completely agree with that.
Well, and let's even take it to extreme where, like, if then they said, well, if it's meals, restaurant meals under a certain dollar amount, it's reasonable, shouldn't be taxed. But, if you're eating steak, then you should be taxed. Just take, you've got, mom and pop, and they rarely go out. They've saved, their whole life, 50th anniversary, whatever it may be, and they want to go out and have a special steak dinner. They should be taxed on their food, at any level. It's a city and county of Denver. I did a Cora a couple years ago, and because that's one of the largest jurisdictions. Now, City and County of Denver doesn't charge tax on food for home consumption, but there's there's these different rules that are present. I think expressed about like apple juice being different content of whether it's considered a certain category of food or not. With the city and county of Denver, in theory, they don't charge those taxes on food for home consumption. So what they're taxing is restaurant food, that takeout food that we just talked about, prepared food. So if you go to buy a rotisserie chicken, that would be considered prepared food. So, there's a lot of people I know that instead of just going and baking a chicken, they just go grab a rotisserie chicken. They're going home to make it into chicken tacos or whatever, chicken salad or, whatever. Great protein source, right? But we're taxing those foods. City and county of Denver is shockingly in the year 2019, so pre-COVID, restaurants full operation. We keep that in mind when you're looking at the 2020 figure where there were a lot of shutdowns, right? $160 million in sales tax on the food for immediate consumption and beverages in 2019. And we've seen food prices increase how much since 2019? So it is beyond those figures, although probably adjusted a bit as disposable income has perhaps gotten a little bit tighter, especially in recent time. Anyway, it's a lot of money. That is reflective of, let's say it's just the food portion of that. I could take a guess that maybe, let's just wild figure, $100 million. That's $100 million. The city and county of Denver, the city council of Denver could make the choice to remove $100 million being taken from people's dinner tables and refrigerators. And when they talk about helping those who are in need, wouldn't, again, low hanging fruit, wouldn't it be pretty obvious for the city council to say, we make a resolution where we're going to eliminate the tax on food for immediate consumption and all those other little hurdles where it's defining other types of food, again, like apple juices and granola bars and things like that. They get bumped in with this pop and candy designation and they get tax full rate. Wipe them all off. Wipe them all off. If you want to talk about the alcohol separately, go ahead. But for food, I mean, it should be repealed. And city council doesn't have to go to the voters to do that. And that comes into where we've had more personal examples. And I believe you have personal examples where we can talk about how this really impacts the local level, things that may come before you. So with This slide here, I want to cover, even though I was just talking about Denver, I'll give an example of a smaller town, just to let people know it's not just big downtown Denver. In Edgewater, which is one of the smallest towns within the metropolitan area, and it's that little really small one, there were a group of activists who were recently reaching out to city council in Edgewater to ask for elimination of tax on food for home consumption. So different jurisdictions, different policies. Edgewater still taxes the banana, the apple. They don't differentiate between the Taco Bell takeout or the prepared salad or the rotisserie chicken and the apple and the baby food and all of meat products, all those health items, whatever they may be. Edgewater is taxing all of those at a full rate. And for that jurisdiction, they're collecting $2 million a year is what they estimate in that little small town. Now, what's a real kicker here is that the city of Edgewater has a sales tax incentive with a large developer, corporate chain, and that developer is allowed to keep sales tax money right now. It was a long contract. Taxpayers were written into this deal by their elected representatives. Well, that deal is going to finally end. The payoff is coming where the developer is going to be paid off. So that means the city of Edgewater would be taking in more money. And now, wouldn't that be an ideal time to provide relief to citizens? And the city council, again, without a vote of the people necessary, could eliminate that tax. But when they were approached by the citizens in Edgewater, the city basically said, nope, sorry, we'd rather keep taking food from your table in your refrigerator, and we're going to put it into other things. I like to use a cross reference when governments talk about Tabor now as a revenue retention thing. Well, it should go the opposite way too. In this case, you've got a developer, mega, who's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, while the taxpayers are being penalized with a regressive tax. That's, again, it just, when the government's talking about easing burden on citizens, it doesn't seem to be a lot of times they kind of pick winners and losers out of all of it. And to me, removing a grocery tax, a tax on food for immediate consumption, that's just a win-win. It's a win-win for everyone. So it shouldn't even be, I mean, frankly, the city council should have said, you know what? We forgot that developer payoff is ending. Let's just end the grocery tax. And wouldn't that be like a great celebration? But no, they resist. So what can you do? And this is where I think you and I have like some examples. First of all, but if somebody wants to get involved and take these tactics, just because city council says no, that doesn't mean the end of it's done. There's other things that can be worked on here. So first of all, checking where are you paying sales tax on groceries. A lot of people do not know it. The receipts can be hard to read, especially like King Supers. They'll have category A, B, D for whatever reason. And you actually have to kind of like get your calculator out and calculate, okay, these different things. And honestly, I know so much about food taxes that I'm way beyond. The average person, if you ask, well, what's the difference between this product and how it's taxed? They're not going to win a quiz show probably on that, which is another good reason to get rid of it. So figure out what you're paying and start to ask questions about how you're being taxed on what products. Again, we're talking about food, certain types of beverages. And if your local taxing agency is charging a tax on groceries, ask them how much that amounts to in a year. For some of them, they won't be able to break it out because they're just bulking it in with everything. They've been taxing food for so long, they don't even know. But ask them, put them on the spot, figure it out. And there's good ways you can estimate it based off averages in other towns too. I mean, groceries, you're not going to see huge differences. And then put them on the spot. Ask local elected representative during a public hearing. You can do a sidebar discussion if you want, but I kind of go with public hearings. Why are they charging a tax on food? And just put it on the record. Why are you charging a tax on food? They come up with all these different public projects. Well, to start with the fair and equal thing, why take money from taxpayers in the first place and then turn around to hand it to them? You remove a tax on groceries, you don't have that complication. You don't have to worry about, oh, we're going to give food tax credits to somebody if they earn a certain under certain amount, and make them show receipts to prove it that their income qualified. Just remove the taxes on these foods. Yeah. So ask them why they're charging the tax. Then ask them publicly, this is where the public part's real good, if they'll look at a voluntary repeal of the tax. They don't have to go to voters to eliminate a tax. They do have to go to voters to raise a tax. They don't have to go to voters to eliminate a tax. I say that twice just to emphasize it. And if they don't do it, then consider starting a petition initiative. This is a very, very popular tax repeal. And frankly, and you talked about it at the beginning here, it's election time, right? Well, people should commit to that in their platform if they're elected, and then fight tooth nail all of that to get it done once they're in office. So, but for the average citizen, they can consider starting a petition initiative to put it on the ballot. I'll jump into and stand outside grocery stores to get signatures. When I've had experience in this, we would go in front of a grocery store and we'd have people walking in, which you didn't really approach them when they're walking in, you approach them when they're leaving. It's just to be good for the store, they didn't want to bother shoppers. And people would be walking by and you'd have the sign, the clipboard. And the good tactic is on the back of the clipboard, you say, sign grocery tax repeal. And so you're not like in their face asking for a signature, but they see what you're doing. And we'd have some stop sometimes. They go, we don't pay a tax on groceries. And say, okay, come and see us when you come on the way out. And they would just make a beeline for you, come out, and they'd be signing that thing right away, going, I can't believe it. I paid a tax on food. I came from the East Coast. They don't do that. I came from here. They don't do that. So now I'm going to jump into this one real quick to give an example, and then I want to jump to you on Greeley. Talk about that for a minute. But my history with food taxes goes back years, like I say. And if you look at that picture, that's from a long time ago. City of Lakewood, way years ago, 2005, they got this 50% tax increase passed with a component that said we didn't get Tabor revenue caps anymore on that revenue. So a good chunk of the revenue permanently detapered there. But at that time, the city charged sales tax on food. So, and that included the home consumption. Again, a banana, a jar of baby food, a pack of chicken, whatever. And so seeing that tax go through, it's just frustrating. It was my early years in a way with the city of Lakewood. So a group of us formed up and I helped spearhead it, was the head petition rep. And it was a group of citizens here. This is Glenn Glass, Dorothy Weiscarver, Fred Clifford, great people. Glenn and Dorothy no longer with us. Dorothy, Southern Blue Dem, former city councilor, and she was just a wonderful, wonderful activist. So the group of us led the citizens petition, and they formed a committee, the city. I got on this committee. What they wanted to do was stall this, stop it, scare tactics. It's going to hurt the city. I remember the city manager at one point sent out a voice robo dial to all the employees that said, be aware, because that's when we were circulating. They're circulating a petition to repeal the grocery taxes and your jobs are at risk, and so anyway, polling on a grocery tax, they pass. They just, you really kind of, it's hard not to get it to pass. People are just in disbelief that they know that they're paying, that tax once they realize it. Happy to repeal it. So the city council, in this case, Lakewood City Council, then, as they are allowed to do by law, said, okay, we see what you're saying. We see the polling results. We know we're going to lose at the ballot. We will pass it. And so there's different ways to get to victory. And this video where I took the screenshot was us just huddling afterwards. And you can see we're all very, very happy. So we were celebrating the victory. And with that, there's different encounters. So I want to go to you for a minute because I've been just talking away. City of Greeley over time has been taxing groceries. And there's a story behind it. What refresh me? I've been up there on it, but for everybody who's listening and watching, catch them up on it. What a
Oh,
battle you
definitely.
have going on.
Yeah, so Greeley has a tax on food, and fortunately, back when it was first instituted, they had a 5-year sunset provision. So every 5 years, they'd have to go back to the voters, ask for this 3% tax on food to be renewed every year. This year, so here in 2024, it's up again. So we have an opportunity. Moved up to Greeley earlier this year. We have an opportunity to stop the food tax, save people money on their groceries, provide this very common sense way to increase the affordability of people here in Colorado. So I'm really trying to encourage people and rally people and started a committee. We got a good Facebook group. We were at the city council meeting, talking to the city councilors, holding signs out on the street, really trying to have an organized effort to get people involved and motivated to vote no on this initiative this year in Greeley to end the food tax. Now, the city got smart, the town got smart this year. They're doing it a little different. So the food tax extension is permanent. So voters in Greeley will be voting in November to permanently extend the 3% tax on food. And the polling is the lowest it's ever been. I've seen the city's internal polling. The sentiment is not there. Like you said, people will want to save money on their food. They vote with their pocketbook, regardless of their political persuasion. They want to be able to feed their kids high quality food at a lower price. So it's just so common sense and really trying to make this fight happen up here in Greeley. It's very fortunate that we have this opportunity this year. Just last year in 2023, the city of Loveland repealed their grocery tax. There's a citizen-led initiative. People were just like you said, standing outside the grocery stores and on street corners, getting the signatures, and there was so much fear mongering and so much from the city. Fortunately, the mayor of Loveland actually supported the repeal, but of course, the town manager and a lot of the other city staff was writing editorials and getting the information out there. We're going to have to fire people at the city. It's going to be disastrous. It's going to be so bad. But it was 65% of the voters in Loveland voted to repeal their food tax, just to show you how popular this is. I mean, very little these days wins with that kind of margin. So, people are tired of it. People are paying tired of this extremely high cost of living here in Colorado. And for heaven's sakes, food is a necessity of life. Food is something that you can't go without. You need it. So for the fact that these governments think that they have a right to increase the cost of our food at our expense for people who are working hard, people work hard for their paycheck, and then you got to say, "Hey, you take tax money out of my paycheck, and then you're taking tax money out of my grocery bill, on my gas, on every single thing I buy, on your property." I mean, it's just outrageous. We're being taxed to death. So the time now is to repeal the food tax. Uh, extremely impressed, Natalie, with your efforts and the efforts of everybody back then in 2008 to get the food tax repealed in Lakewood. And I really hope this is a good lesson to people across Colorado that this is a winnable battle. This is a
Yeah.
winnable fight for liberty. It's a winnable fight for affordability. We saw it in Loveland. We're seeing it in Greeley this year. We've seen it in Lakewood and other places before. So, this is a place where people can fight and win.
Yeah, and for my advice on this, because maybe I hope some people will be motivated to look in this, and especially time it for next year, because you already have a lot of city council races going on the ballot. So you've got right now time to plan ahead. Get your team ready to go. Have the team pretty much ready to go before you file petition paperwork with the city clerk, because once you do that, then the time clock starts ticking. So this is perfect timing to do it. And with the cost of living, there's one way to look at it is, the government actually is making money off of inflation. So when you get those higher prices, they're actually getting more sales tax. It's like a compounding type of effect. And like you said, 65%. There was a petition a couple years ago, maybe a little more than that. Longmont, I think it was. I went up to help petition with them, and we had this big skirmish because police, well, it was a long deal, but they were violating petition rights, and they apologized later. But that initiative didn't go through, partly because it failed with not enough volunteers, but it doesn't take that much. If you get, again, the group assembled, which I think maybe that was what they kind of missed, dollar wise, if you have volunteers, you can do this for under $100, just printing the petitions up, getting some small signage going, and then it takes off by itself. 65%. That's a pure win. So anyway, food taxes even go back, besides that city initiative that we did, even into when I was on RTD. And I'm going to just jump to the slide a little more because for me it was a really memorable moment, and it tied to a lawsuit against the state, which is a long story. But when I got on the RTD board, it's important to note that when there's different definitions of what types of foods they are, it's really generated off the state definition of what is food. And so RTD, Regional Transportation District, is mainly funded by sales tax. So they also get taxes from groceries, but it's really the food for immediate consumption along with those pop and candy fallacy. It's not accurate at all to call it that, but of that. Well, RTD was pushing a measure to get more revenue because they were under pressure to finish fast tracks, which won't happen for decades. But they'll keep taking the money, and sales tax is one of them. So after I'd gotten on the board, they came up with this initiative and we're helping to push a bill through the state capitol that would have changed the definition of what is food. So they got these other products bulked into what's, again, pop and candy, therefore increasing about $3 million a year, an estimate for RTD, just from these additional food taxes and the mix that was in there. Well, as this bill was being pushed, RTD was celebrating because they got their mission accomplished. They were going to get more revenue right off of the food table and other sources, our food table and other sources. And there was a bill signing down at the state capitol where at the time, again, the board was pushing this. They loved it, going to get more revenue. They joined up with Hickenlooper at the time, and we're going to have a bill signing. And I was so upset with them bringing more food products into being taxed that I went to the store, bought a bunch of stuff I would never, ever really buy. But they were examples of what these stupid rules were about. Filled this red flyer wagon with it, took it down to the Capitol, dragged the wagon inside, went to the bill signing with this reporter who knew I was showing up. It was Monty Whaley, which he was real good for me at the Rocky Mountain News. That goes back, huh? And took the wagon in there and refused to be part of the bill signing just in protest over the fact that it was another government, two more, actually multiple governments, because of the way the definition changed, being state, the top arching definition. The state was going to collect more money. RTD was going to collect more money. City of Lakewood would collect, every single government underneath would collect more money because of this bill, House Bill 1272. And it just really, really, really irked me because I just don't think food, like many, as we've expressed, should be taxed. So it was a very interesting day. I'll never forget it. I'm glad I did have able to find this old article, and I still got this red wagon, which I use for events, but haven't taken it to the Capitol lately. Anyway, I got off track there, so I will get back and hopefully, oops, okay. Now I'm going to just finish this up and then we can just go from there. As I say, I'm running for county commissioner. I've had this experience with food taxes and helping to repeal the Lakewood grocery tax, helping on other local initiatives to get those taxes repealed, like going to Longmont, trying to help them get it on the ballot. I did go to your Greeley event and testified, spoke for the group, I should say. I did speak up, and actually I was chastised, wasn't I? Now that I think back to it. That's right. I was told, I don't know if that was just to me or if there were other people, but they were like, if you don't even live here, we don't care what you have to say. And the point was, I was making them, we've repealed it, other people repealed it, Greeley can repeal it. That's what the point is. That is why I drove over 100 miles to go testify for 3 grand minutes, if that's what it was. So, I want to keep moving forward on this issue, support you in Greeley in whichever way I can. By the way, before I forget, what's the name of the committee you set up?
Protecting
And
Greeley families.
you have a website yet?
No, but you'll see if you go to Free State Colorado /Greeley, freestatecolorado.com/Greeley, you'll find information on the food tax there.
Great. Okay. So as county commissioner, most people don't know what a county commissioner does. That's what I'm running for. When the state was created, it created then counties. Counties are an extension of the state. You provide certain services for the state. In reverse, you're also the spokesperson, the representative from a county level that you've got a full-time job as a county commissioner, okay? Part of your job should be, in my opinion, go down to the Capitol during the legislative session, which is sausage making at its best, and you should be down there fighting for the citizens. One of those things would be eliminating taxes on food. I talked earlier about that overarching definition and all the local governments dependent on it. So as a county commissioner, going down, talking to the legislators, advance of the session, laying it out why it's best benefit for Colorado as a whole and at local levels and for the citizens, because that's what it's really all about, right? Citizens, the families, those who are working poor, those who are house rich, income poor, all of these folks need assistance, and they've delved out winners, losers, all of that. But a food tax is a fair tax relief across the board. And a county commissioner, I would be happy to, as I put it, vigorously, even if I got to go down with my red wagon, I will do it. And I will go down there and fight for getting a new definition in Colorado of what's taxable, and what will be taxable will not be food. That definition would be struck. And I meant to include this in here just as kind of a backup. This would not be fresh territory, because I am talking about different levels. Again, all of those quirks and holes, gaps in home for food consumption, but also immediate consumption. I forgot to include it in this slide, but for those who knew Rep. McKeon, that's McKean, and he passed away a couple years ago while in office. He was running House Bill 22-1062, and that was to repeal sales tax on food for immediate consumption. The fiscal note on that for year 23 to 24, which is what we're in right now, was $462 million in savings to the citizens of Colorado. Now think about this. We've just had part of our Tabor refunds stolen and diverted. So again, government picking winners, losers, different definitions, not fair at all, not in conformance with our taxpayers' Bill of Rights on refunds and how the money is given back. So if we've got that excess in money, the whole best way to deal with Tabor is you don't take money from the people in the first place. And right now we have, well, let's say we definitely, even after they took away part of the Tabor refunds, we've got several hundred million in Tabor refunds still coming back to everybody, but half of it got diverted in the first place. That is easily could be countered by just reducing the revenue in the first place with this nearly $500 million that they're taking literally out of babies' mouths, families' tables, out of the refrigerator, and out of the freezer, and give that relief to the citizens. And if they won't do it, then we, as county commissioners, as activists, again, I would do this vigorously. Part of that be holding town halls and getting people to understand the testimony process, how to meet, how to rally. It's what I specialize in a lot of, is grassroots organization and getting people very motivated to enact change. One of the kind of names I use in stuff I do is Colorado Engaged. Well, let's engage across Colorado and demand that we do not want any more taxes on food, including food for home consumption and food for immediate consumption. No more taking food from babies. Let's put more food on everybody's table.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, really appreciate you giving us a distinction between the immediate consumption and home consumption. I think a lot of people didn't realize that there's different tax rates or different mechanisms to tax food on different levels. So I think that's really important. But I really appreciate you giving us a game plan, giving people the opportunity to have a plan put forward, a path towards eliminating this food tax, whether, like you said, the citizen activists doing it themselves, or really, getting involved in these local candidates. It's election year, like we said a few times throughout this video, but people should be challenging these candidates running for office. Talk to them when they come knocking on your door and say, what are you going to do to lower my grocery bill? What are you going to do to eliminate the taxes on the food that I need as a basic necessity of life to feed my family? So I think it's an incredible opportunity to do that this year. The sentiment is there. The public is definitely behind this type of thing. And really exciting too that, as if you get elected as county commissioner, the opportunity that you'd have to really be an advocate for ending the food tax statewide. And really, from the local level at your city municipality and the city councilors to your county commissioner to your state legislature, all of these people can really be advocates for ending this food tax and really pushing this narrative forward and kind of shifting that window towards getting rid of food taxes. I think that's a really important winnable victory that can achieve real liberty here in Colorado and help people with this affordability issue that the number one issue facing people across the state.
Yes. Fair tax relief. That is the goal here. And doing it that's, we do it local by local by local, and nobody should stop themselves from doing that, because the conversation needs to start, right? And so even if you're just bringing it up at city council, that is building upon a foundation then to say, you guys aren't acting? Okay, let's take it to the state capitol and let's have a rally, on the west or the east steps. And we'll all be wearing, now that we can wear t-shirts that have a political thing on it, we can have a cute apple on the front with no more tax in my food or whatever it may be. But it really, in some ways, also has to be done at the state level, because like in Jefferson County, they charge a tax on all food in Jeffco. We can't petition counties in Colorado. We can't petition, meaning we don't have ballot access. Can't put it on the petition, let the voters vote. The electeds are the only ones who can do it at the county level. There would be another example. If we got two fiscal conservatives in Jeffco County Commissioners, we could repeal it. We wouldn't even have to go to worry about citizen initiative, go to the state. I mean, we still got to do that. But anyway, mission forward. It can be done inexpensively. Use Nextdoor. Nextdoor is a great, great, great place to start a chat. How many people are, struggling and expressing their that cost of living problem there? It's a good topic. I see a lot of lost dog ads. I bet a lot of people would like to have a little break between those and talk about removing the grocery taxes locally.
Well, Natalie, I really appreciate your efforts to do this. I appreciate the path forward for people here across Colorado, and appreciate that you're running for office for county commissioner. You're putting your money where your mouth is, getting out there and doing what you can to really move liberty forward. Definitely encourage people to check out your website and get involved in your campaign. Any final thoughts to leave us with tonight?
Um, well, first, if people want to help with the campaign, one, they can go read more at nataliementen.com, and everybody will be able to know how to spell my name. Getting literature out right now as the election is just gearing up, really. We've all been like immersed in it, but it really is gearing up now. And we've got this great fall weather where it's not boiling hot and it's not cold. This is a perfect time to help get literature to the local neighbors and talk to them. We've got a Jeffco Tabor issue. I've got the Jeffco Tabor issue included with my lit. So it's like a twofer when you go to the door, maybe three. Talk about food tax too. And again, I hope to represent the people and be able to go down to the Capitol and just say, we've had enough of this. Keep taking from the taxpayers day after day. Little slick tricks down there to shift refunds. And I look forward to being a taxpayer advocate and just going down there on a regular basis during the session to fight for people, both in the county commissioner's office, but at the state capitol and local government levels. That's what the job's about. So I appreciate any help that somebody wants to give. And I guess I'll close with that. And I hope, even if they don't have time to come help my campaign, maybe that means they're busy because they're now out recruiting a team to repeal the grocery tax in their local area. And I will forgive them for not coming to help me if that's the case.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Natalie. Best wishes, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks.